We're continuing with our reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're now on Canto 6, taking up at chapter 7, text number 15. King Indra said, "Therefore, with great frankness and without duplicity, I shall now bow my head at the lotus feet of Brihaspati, the spiritual master of the demigods. Because he is in the mode of goodness, he is fully aware of all knowledge and is the best of the brahmanas. Now I shall touch his lotus feet and offer my obeisances unto him to try to satisfy him." Purport. Coming to his senses, King Indra realized that he was not a very sincere disciple of his spiritual master, Brihaspati. Therefore, he decided that henceforward he would be a nishata, non-duplicitous. Nishata shirshna touch charanam sprishan. He decided to touch his head to the feet of his spiritual master. From this example, we should learn this principle enunciated by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, yasya prasada nagati kutopi. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one is benedicted by the mercy of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. A disciple should never be a hypocrite or be unfaithful to his spiritual master. In Srimad Bhagavatam 11:17-27, the spiritual master is also called Acharya. Acharya mam vijaniyan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, says that one should respect the spiritual master, accepting him as the Lord himself. Navamanyeta kadhichit. One should not disrespect the Acharya at any time. Namartya budyasu yeta. One should never think the Acharya an ordinary person. Familiarity sometimes breeds contempt, but one should be very careful in one's dealings with the Acharya. Agara dishanam dvijam. The Acharya is a perfect Brahmana and has unlimited intelligence in guiding the activities of his disciple. Therefore, Krishna advises in Bhagavad Gita 4:34, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadakshanti de jnanam yaninas tattvadarshinaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a bona fide spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. One should fully surrender unto the spiritual master, and with service, sevaya, one should approach him for further spiritual enlightenment. While Indra, the king of the demigods, thought in this way and repented in his own assembly, Brihaspati, the most powerful spiritual master, understood his mind. Thus he became invisible to Indra and left home, for Brihaspati was spiritually more powerful than King Indra. Although Indra searched vigorously with the assistance of the other demigods, he could not find Brihaspati. Then Indra thought, "Alas, my spiritual master has become dissatisfied with me, and now I have no means of achieving good fortune." Although Indra was surrounded by demigods, he could not find peace of mind. Hearing of the pitiable condition of King Indra, the demons, following the instructions of their guru, Sukracharya, equipped themselves with weapons and declared war against the demigods. The demigods' heads, thighs, and arms, and other parts of their bodies were injured by the sharp arrows of the demons. The demigods, headed by Indra, saw no other course than to immediately approach Lord Brahma with bowed heads for shelter and proper instruction. When the most powerful Lord Brahma saw the demigods coming toward him, their bodies gravely injured by the arrows of the demons, he pacified them by his great causeless mercy and spoke as follows. Text 21.
Lord Brahma said, "O best of the demigods, unfortunately, because of madness resulting from your material opulence, you failed to receive Brihaspati properly when he came to your assembly. Because he is aware of the Supreme Brahman and fully in control of his senses, he is the best of the Brahmanas. Therefore, it is very astonishing that you have acted impudently toward him." Purport. Lord Brahma recognized the Brahminical qualifications of Brihaspati, who was the spiritual master of the demigods, because of his awareness of the supreme Brahman. Brihaspati was very much in control of his senses and mind, and therefore he was a most qualified Brahmana. Lord Brahma chastised the demigods for not properly respecting this Brahmana, who was their guru. Lord Brahma wanted to impress upon the demigods that one's guru should not be disrespected under any circumstances. When Brihaspati entered the assembly of the demigods, they and their king, Indra, took him for granted. Since he came every day, they thought, they did not need to show him special respect. As it is said, familiarity breeds contempt. Being very much displeased, Brihaspati immediately left Indra's palace. Thus all the demigods, headed by Indra, became offenders at the lotus feet of Brihaspati. And Lord Brahma, being aware of this, condemned their neglect. In a song we sing every day, Nartam Das Thakur says, Chakshu Dana Dilo Jay, Janmi Janmi Prabhu say. The Guru gives spiritual insight to the disciple, and therefore the Guru should be considered his master, life after life. Under no circumstances should the Guru be disrespected, but the demigods, being puffed up by their material possessions, were disrespectful to their Guru. Therefore Srimad Bhagavatam advises, Acharyamam vijani yan navamanyeta karachit namartya buddhyasu yeta. The Acharya should always be offered respectful obeisances. One should never envy the Acharya, considering him an ordinary human being. Text 22. Because of your misbehavior toward Brihaspati, you have been defeated by the demons. My dear demigods, since the demons were weak, having been defeated by you several times, how else could you, who are so advanced in opulence, be defeated by them? Purport. The Devas were celebrated for fighting with the Asuras perpetually. The Devas are celebrated for fighting with the Asuras perpetually. In such fights the Asuras were always defeated. But this time the demigods were defeated. Why? The reason, as stated here, was that they had offended their spiritual master. Their impudent disrespect of their spiritual master was the cause of their defeat by the demons. As stated in the Shastras, when one disrespects a respectable superior, one loses his longevity and the result of his pious activities, and in this way one is degraded. 23. O Indra, your enemies, the demons, were extremely weak because of their disrespect toward Shukracharya. But since they have now worshipped Shukracharya with great devotion, they have again become powerful. By their devotion to Shukracharya, they have increased their strength so much that now they are able even to easily seize my abode from me. Purport. Lord Brahma wanted to point out to the demigods that by the strength of the Guru, one can become most powerful within this world, and by the displeasure of the Guru, one can lose everything. This is confirmed by the song of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Yasya Prasadam Nagati Katopi. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one is benedicted by the mercy of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Although the demons are insignificant in comparison to Lord Brahma, because of the strength of their Guru, they were so powerful that they could even seize Brahmaloka from Lord Brahma. We therefore pray to the spiritual master. Mukkam karurivachalam pankum langayate girim yat kripa tamaham bande shigarum dinatadanam. Bhavarta Dipika commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam 111. By the mercy of the Guru, even a dumb man can become the greatest orator, and even a lame man can cross mountains. As advised by Lord Brahma, one should remember this Shastra conjunction if one desires success in life. Text 24. Because of their firm determination to follow the instructions of Shukracharya, his disciples, the demons, are now unconcerned about the demigods. In fact, kings or others who have determined faith in the mercy of brahmanas, cows, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, and who always worship these three, are always strong in their position.
On text number 18 in the translation.
18, that's a long ways ago. Do you want me to go there? Really? Where am I now? 24. 18, 17, 18.
Go down in the translation. Okay, it's fixed.
Well, that's nice to know, isn't it? Isn't it? Especially since you're the communication guy for the BBT trustees. 24. Commentary. From the instructions of Lord Brahma, it is understood that everyone should very faithfully worship the Brahmanas, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the cows. I thought I did. Because of their firm determination to follow the instructions of Shukracharya, I did this. His disciples, the demons, are now unconcerned about the demigods. We read this. Everfresh. In fact, kings or others who have determined faith in the mercy of brahmanas, cows, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, and who always worship these three, are always strong in their position. Purport. From the instructions of Lord Brahma, it is understood that everyone should very faithfully worship the brahmanas, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the cows. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha. He is always very kind to cows and brahmanas. Therefore, one who worships Govinda must satisfy him by worshipping the brahmanas and cows. If a government worships the brahmanas, the cows, and Krishna, Govinda, it is never. If a government worships the brahmanas, the cows, and Krishna, Govinda, it is never defeated anywhere. Otherwise, it must always be defeated and condemned everywhere. At the present moment, all over the world, governments have no respect for brahmanas, cows, and Govinda. And consequently, there are chaotic conditions all over the world. In summary, although the demigods were very powerful in material opulence, the demons defeated them in battle because the demigods had behaved disrespectfully toward a Brahmana, Brihaspati, who was their spiritual master. Text 25. O demigods, I instruct you to approach Vishwarupa, the son of Twashta, and accept him as your guru. He is a pure and very powerful Brahmana, undergoing austerity and penances. Pleased by your worship, he will fulfill your desires, provided that you tolerate his being inclined to side with the demons. Now this is a test. Purport. Lord Brahma advised the demigods to accept the son of Twashta as their spiritual master, although he was always inclined toward the benefit of the asuras.
26. Srila Shukadeva Goswami continued, thus advised by Lord Brahma, and relieved of their anxiety, all the demigods went to the sage Vishvarupa, the son of Twashta. My dear king, they embraced him and spoke as follows. The demigods said, Beloved Vishvarupa, may there be all good fortune for you. We, the demigods, have come to your ashrama as your guest. Please try to fulfill our desires according to the time, since we are on the level of your parents. O Brahmana, the highest duty of a son, even though he has sons of his own, is to serve his parents. And what to speak of a son who is a brahmachari? The Acharya, the spiritual master who teaches all the Vedic knowledge and gives initiation by offering the sacred thread, is the personification of all the Vedas. Similarly, a father personifies Lord Brahma, a brother King Indra, a mother the planet Earth, and a sister Mercy. A guest personifies religious principles. An invited guest personifies the demigod Agni, and all living entities personify Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. According to the moral instructions of Chanakya Pandit, Atmavat Sarvabhuteshu, one should observe all living entities to be on the same level as oneself. This means that no one should be neglected as inferior, because Paramatma is seated in everyone's body. Everyone should be respected as a temple of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This verse describes the different ways in which one should respect a guru, a father, a brother, a sister, a guest, and so on.
Well done, I might add. Text 31. Dear son, we have been defeated by our enemies, and therefore we are very much aggrieved. Please mercifully fulfill our desires by relieving our distress through the strength of your austerities. Please fulfill our prayers. 32. Since you are completely aware of the Supreme Brahman, you are a perfect Brahmana, and therefore you are the spiritual master of all orders of life. We accept you as our spiritual master and director, so that by the power of your austerity we may easily defeat the enemies who have conquered us. Purport. One must approach a particular type of guru to execute a particular type of duty. Therefore, although Vishwarupa was inferior to the demigods accepted him as their guru to conquer the demons. 33. The demigods continued, "Do not fear criticism for being younger than us. Such etiquette does not apply in regard to Vedic mantras. Except in relationship to Vedic mantras, seniority is determined by age. But one may offer respectful obeisances even to a younger person who is advanced in chanting Vedic mantras. Therefore, although you are junior in relationship to us, you may become our priest without hesitation." Purport. It is said, Vidat Bam Vaisesika. One may be senior without being advanced in age. Even if one is not old, one gains seniority if he is senior in knowledge. Vishwarupa was junior in relationship to the demigods because he was their nephew, but the demigods wanted to accept him as their priest, and therefore he would have to accept obeisances from them. The demigods explained that this should not be a cause for hesitation. He could become their priest because he was advanced in Vedic knowledge. Similarly, Chanakya Pandit advises, Nichad apyutamam jnanam. One may accept education from a member of a lower social order. The Brahmanas, the members of the most elevated Varna, are teachers, but a person in a lower family, such as a family of Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, or even Shudras, may be accepted as a teacher if he has knowledge. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu approved of this when he expressed this opinion before Ramananda Roy. Kiba vipra kiba nyasi shudra keni noi, ye Krishna tatmaveta say guru hoy. It does not matter whether one is a Brahmana, Shudra, Grihastha, or Sannyasi. These are all material designations. A spiritually advanced person has nothing to do with such designations. Therefore, if one is advanced in the science of Krishna consciousness, regardless of his position in human society, he may become a spiritual master. Text 34. Shukadeva Goswami continued, when all the demigods requested the great Vishwarupa to be their priest, Vishwarupa, who was advanced in austerities, was very pleased. He replied to them as follows. Shri Vishwarupa said, O demigods, although the acceptance of priesthood is decried as causing the loss of previously acquired Brahminical power, how can someone like me refuse to accept your personal request? You are all exalted commanders of the entire universe. I am your disciple and must take many lessons from you. Therefore, I cannot refuse you. I must agree for my own benefit. Purport. The professions of a qualified Brahmana are Patana, Patana, Yajana, Yajana, Dana, and Pratigraha. The words Yajana and Yajana mean that a Brahmana becomes the priest of the populace for the sake of their elevation. One who accepts the post of spiritual master neutralizes the sinful reactions of the Yajamana, the one on whose behalf he performs yajna. Thus the results of the pious acts previously performed by the priest or spiritual master are diminished. Therefore, priesthood is not accepted by learned Brahmanas. Nevertheless, the greatly learned Brahmana Vishwarupa became the priest of the demigods because of his profound respect for them.
O exalted governors of various planets, the true Brahmana, who has no material possessions, maintains himself by the profession of accepting shilochana. In other words, he picks up grains left in the field and on the ground in the wholesale marketplace. By this means, householder Brahmanas who actually abide by the principles of austerity and penance maintain themselves and their families and perform all necessary pious activities. A Brahmana who desires to achieve happiness by gaining wealth through professional priesthood must certainly have a very low mind. How shall I accept such priesthood? Purport: a first-class Brahmana does not accept any rewards from his disciples or yajamanas. Practicing austerities and penances, he instead goes to the agricultural field and collects food grains left by the agriculturalists to be collected by Brahmanas. Similarly, such Brahmanas go to marketplaces where grains are purchased and sold wholesale, and there they collect grains left by the merchants. In this way, such exalted Brahmanas maintain their bodies and families. Such priests never demand anything from their disciples to live in opulence, imitating Kshatriyas or Vaishyas. In other words, a pure Brahmana voluntarily accepts a life of poverty and lives in complete dependence on the mercy of the Lord. Not very many years ago, a Brahmana in Krishnanagar, near Navadvip, was offered some help from the local zamindar, Vraja Krishna Chandra. The Brahmana refused to accept the help. He said that since he was very happy in his householder life, taking rice given by his disciples and cooking vegetables of tamarind leaves, there was no question of taking help from the zamindar. The conclusion is that although a Brahmana may receive much opulence from his disciples, he should not utilize the rewards of his priesthood for his personal benefit. He must use them for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 37. All of you are my superiors. Therefore, although accepting priesthood is sometimes reproachable, I cannot refuse even a small request from you. I agree to be your priest. I shall fulfill your request by dedicating my life and possessions. Sri Shukadeva Goswami continued, O king, after making this promise to the demigods, the exalted Vishwarup, surrounded by the demigods, performed the necessary priestly activities with great enthusiasm and attention. Purport: the word samadhina is very important. Samadhi means complete absorption with an undiverted mind. Vishwarup, who was a most learned Brahmana, not only accepted the request of the demigods, but took their request seriously and performed the activities of priesthood with an undiverted mind. In other words, he accepted the priesthood not for material gain, but to profit the demigods. Such is the duty of a priest. The word puraha means family, and hita means benefit. Thus the word purohita indicates that the priest is the well-wisher of the family. Another meaning of the word pura is first. A priest's first duty is to see that his disciples benefit spiritually and materially by all means. then he is satisfied. A priest should never be interested in performing Vedic rituals for his personal benefit. 39. The opulence of the demons, who are generally known as the enemies of the demigods, was protected by the talents and tactics of Shukracharya, but Vishwarup, who is most powerful, composed a protective prayer known as the Narayana Kavacha. By this intelligent mantra, he took away the opulence of the demons and gave it to Mahendra, the king of heaven. Purport. The distinction between the demigods, devas, and demons, asuras, is that the demigods are all devotees of Lord Vishnu, whereas the demons are devotees of demigods like Lord Shiva, Goddess Kali, and Goddess Durga. Sometimes the demons are also devotees of Lord Brahma. Sometimes the demons are also devotees of Lord Brahma. For example, Hiranyakashipu was a devotee of Lord Brahma. Ravana was a devotee of Lord Shiva, and Mahishasura was a devotee of Goddess Durga. The demigods are devotees of Lord Vishnu, Vishnu Bhakta Smito Daiva. Whereas the demons, Asuras Tadviparyayo, are always against the Vishnu Bhaktas or Vaishnavas. To oppose the Vaishnavas, the demons became devotees of Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Kali, Durga, and so on. In the days of yore, that's what Ruchi used to say when he was distributing books. Back in the days of yore, when men were men and kings were kings. In the days of yore, many long years ago, there was animosity between the devas and the asuras, and the same spirit still continues, for the devotees of Lord Shiva and Goddess Durga are always envious of Vaishnavas. For devotees of Lord Shiva and Goddess Durga are always envious of Vaishnavas, who are devotees of Lord Vishnu. This strain between the devotees of Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu has always existed. In the higher planetary systems, fights between the demons and the demigods continue for a long, long time. Herein we see that Vishwarup made for the demigods a protective covering saturated with the Vishnu mantra. Sometimes the Vishnu mantra is called Vishnu Dwara, and the Shiva mantra, that's missing in it. You got it? Okay, because you can't change anything. And the Shiva mantra is called Shivadwar. We find in the Shastras that sometimes the Shivadwar and the Vishnudwar are employed in the fights between the demons and the demigods. The word Suradvisham, which in this verse means of the enemies of the demigods, also refers to the atheists. Srimad Bhagavatam elsewhere says that Lord Buddha appeared for the purpose of bewildering the demons or atheists. The Supreme Personality of Godhead always awards his benedictions to devotees. The Lord himself confirms this in Bhagavad Gita 9:31. Konteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Vishwarup, who was most liberal, spoke to King Indra, Sahasraksha, Sahasrapat, the secret hymn that protected Indra and conquered the military power of the demons. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 6th canto, 7th chapter. 6th canto, 7th chapter. Oh, I thought you had your hand up. 6th canto. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 6th canto, 7th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Indra offends his spiritual master, Brihaspati. Okay, yes, you may. Oh, you moved over here now, huh? We still know who you are, you know.
So this battle with the demon, where does it take place? I mean, the reason of the question is that in the heavens you have to elevated in consciousness. So how do the demons have access to the heavens?
Well, it's explained either in this section or in another section that I just read, and I can't remember where it is right now, but it'll come to me. That because of the fluctuation of the modes of material nature, it's explained that sometimes the demons have the upper hand by the as of course obviously it's the seventh canto, they have the upper hand because of the expansion of the lower modes of material nature, which are always fighting for supremacy, as Krishna mentions in the 14th chapter. And then we see it by example that Bali and his minions conquered over heaven because of this situation. This is a case in point because of the fall down of the demigods. Now Bali and his gang were able to take over heaven, and there's access everywhere within the material world. It's just that you have to wait for the right time. That's all. And when the modes of rajas and tamas are prominent, then the demons, they have the upper hand. And then when the mode of goodness is prominent, then the demigods. And some people think it's because the Lord favors one over the other, but actually Shukadeva Goswami explains to Parikshit Maharaj in the 7th canto that it's because of the way in which the living entities have their relationship with the modes of material nature.
Sometimes they even duke it out on the earth. And that's what the Battle of Kurukshetra was all about, actually. The demons from these higher regions and demons from the lower regions and they all took birth and they duked it out, the Battle of Kurukshetra.
So we assume that they can travel from planets, that the demons can travel from one planet to another planet. There is...
but it was more prominent
The days of yore. Yeah, other reflections?
Hare Krishna. So this very interesting point was there that for accomplishing specific purpose, one has to accept spiritual master or guru or priest, purohit. I have just a question. Does it mean that disciple, he also can choose the similar demeanor or the quality of the spiritual master, his mood frame, in order to be able to accomplish his...
Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that it's not necessary. Of course, Prabhupada makes this point also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Kibravipa Kripanyasi Shudrakena Noi, that Hari Bhakti Vilas says that if there's a Brahmana guru available, somebody born in a Brahmin family, that is, that one should take the Brahman. But Prabhupada said that's for people who are overly materialistic. They make such considerations. So the main point is that one should accept somebody who's qualified in the science of Krishna consciousness. However, Bhaktivinoda Thakur also points out that if somebody is more culturally in tune with the guru, then he may be more compatible. Because, it's just on a normal human level, you can understand more, and there's a relationship that you can go a little deeper into because of that. So that can ultimately, there's no consideration. It's a spiritual point, but how when it is inspired by the guru-disciple relationship. But there are some considerations one can take into account.
We saw that in the pastime of Vidura. We saw that in terms of the relationship between Uddhava and Vidura and Maitreya. Uddhava was far superior spiritually to Maitreya, so much so that when Krishna was speaking to he left, Maitreya just happened to pass, not happened, it was obviously by Krishna's arrangement, but he came onto the scene. And it's described in the Bhagavatam that Krishna didn't pay that much attention to Maitreya. He kept speaking to Uddhava, but Maitreya heard the instructions to Uddhava, which the last instruction was made him very qualified. Made him a pure devotee, actually, which he wasn't before he came on the scene there. And then when Uddhava went traveling, he met Vidura. And when Vidura, wanted to surrender to Uddhava by Krishna's arrangement and instruction and from within, he wouldn't let him. But he referred him to Maitreya, who was elder than him, because Uddhava was like son to Vidura compared. So there's that, consideration also. But I think that the example that you were mentioning, that was mentioned in the purport, is a little different. Like if you want to be a great astrologer, you have to have a guru. You can't learn astrology by your own. There's so many devotees who do it nowadays, but they can't get
Siddha.
They can't get siddha. They can't get it's a divinatory science. They can't get the vision. Jyoti means vision. They can't actually see what you can see by properly learning all the rules and regulations and applying them properly without personal gain. That's one example. Musicians, you have to have a guru if you want to learn the sitar or any type of elevated devotional music. So in that sense, but compatibility is another thing. This is one aspect of it that Prabhu was talking about. But there's also compatibility in nature and in, one person may be more compatible with another in terms of guru-disciple. So now we have multitude of, plurality in ISKCON, and not everyone's going to be, attracted in the same way to everybody. But at the same time, on the spiritual level, as he was saying, if you surrender to anyone who's spiritually qualified and do surrender, then even if that material compatibility isn't there, then the deed will be done. The spiritual advancement will be made by the surrender to a bona fide spiritual master.
Other points? Reflections? What do you got going there, Swami Prash?
Not a whole lot of notable.
He's playing
curious.
possum. He'll come out anytime. He'll come out swinging anytime now. Come out of his corner. Any other reflections you'd like to make about the chapter, perhaps? I find it to be an extremely instructive chapter. Just what always amazed me about this chapter was that the demons became strong, even though their guru was Sukracharya. So, guru is person and also principle. And when one respects the guru principle, even though the guru may be this or that, the power is there that comes through that channel. And that's very evident in this teaching. And also the instruction about not becoming over familiar. This idea is like, we're hanging out. I saw him yesterday, and that was the idea that Indra had. It's like he was just here. What do we got to get down? I did it yesterday, and Prabhupada helped his disciples to overcome that. I know one particular story I remember one particular pastime in which the devotees were coming in, servants in and out of the room. A servant was coming, and each time his obeisance became more abbreviated. So pretty soon he was just like kind of bobbing his head instead of actually doing the obeisance. And then Prabhupada said, "What is this chopping method?" Because it was like, what is the chopping method? It was like it became sort of rote and unimportant. So it seems as though one has to balance that and be careful not to just lose it, with one's guru. Any other?
Having you just touch just kind of make a gesture toward the knee. It used to be bow down, then it was take the dust from the foot. I'm just saying
It's
in India, it's
But you got to talk into it.
really.
Yeah,
Is that the way it works?
yeah, it is.
You got to talk into it. Really? Yeah, I was just making a point that in India, it used to be that everyone would bow down, and then it became touching the feet, and now then it was the knees, and now it's just kind of like, like that. So it's
Well, it is harder when you get older. I mean, I hesitate to offer full obeisances a lot of times to God brothers, and so because then they'll feel obligated, and I'm like, we read in the Srimad Bhagavatam 3 different kinds of obeisance, like one, and then on your knees and head, and then flat out dandavats. Yes, Prabhu.
One point I liked, one gains seniority if he is senior in knowledge.
Yes. It comes up in knowledge and devotion. It comes up in the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime when he asks the father, who's senior, you or your son? And the father says, oh no, my son, Raghunandan, he's the actual senior because of his absorption in knowledge.
It is among the Shudras, it's the age which is determines the seniority. Among the Vaishyas is the wealth and
spiritual advancement. Patri. Go ahead and start over again.
It is said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Shraddha Anusari Bhakti Adhikari. It depends on the level of something sublime, because some people can not.
The next 5 minutes, we'll just take any thoughts you have about the readings in general, any kind of impressions they've been leaving with you, or any of the struggles you've had with them, or what have you taken away so far from the readings? Shri Radhika Maya.
Hare Krishna. I really like how Maharaj Parikshit is perceptive, and there was a long list of names.